So I'm just going to start this off by saying I really love Epic. I've always found it to be... It allows you to play large battles without it looking dumb. Because you always see things like Apocalypse in 40k where it's just like, it just looks stupid. Like, there's just too many models for the space. And it's effective because it's effectively a quarter of the scale. You have 4 times the space for the same size game table. It just works out, and I think this looks great. And from my experience of playing Legions Imperialis, the actual rules are really nice as well, and you can do decent amount of maneuver, and even sort of tricking your opponent into doing stuff based on what orders you give things as well. There's a lot of depth to it. But I think one of the issues I think a lot of people would have when they think about Epic is they're like, oh, this is so tiny, how am I going to paint this? I think the actual response to that is technically you don't need to paint as much details for it to look good, because you can't actually see most of them on the tabletop. And you can also get away with more mistakes because everything's smaller. You don't have to be as good of a painter, or you don't have to do as good of a paint job to actually get it done, get it to look good on the tabletop. So I have some examples here of my stuff. So I've got, yeah, so this is a 2000 point army I played with. This was my first game, was 2000 points, so it's everything here is a Reaver Titan just off to the side. Most of it's painted. It's the only things that isn't painted, the Reaver's not finished and the Ogrins aren't finished. And a lot of our other stuff could just have more detail put on it. So what I do like about this is you can easily get things to like a tabletop standard, and you can just go back and add more stuff later to make things look better. Because if we go in a bit closer, so yeah, this is the 1000 Sun part of the army. It's only like 100. It's like 185 points. It's basically, it's the difference between the Reaver Titan and the 600 point limit for allies. And even like relatively close up like this, they still look pretty good. And then we've got, here is my Solar Auxilia infantry unit. Everything here just has 3 colors. It's just the metal, technically some have 4. But basically it's just the gunmetal, the light blue for the armor, and then the grey browny color for all the rest of the bodies. And there's a bit of gold and brass put in for like weapon trims and stuff, but it still looks pretty nice. It doesn't have to be, and the paint jobs aren't ideal. I can mind you get closer, but yeah. Next up we've just got the tanks. As you can see, there's not much detail painted on them. I just basically undercoated them, or done the base color, done the metal bits, and I've done the lights on them. So it is stuff I'd like to do to like make them pop a bit more, but they still look really good on the tabletop. And then the aircraft are the same. Well, the aircraft have a bit more. Oh, no, the aircraft are the same. I've got like 2 colors on them, and they still look good. So yeah, this is a close-up of some of my infantry, and the paint job isn't perfect. These are also ones I've done on the base, which I'm not going to do in the future because it's actually not very fun compared to just painting on sprues. But yeah, it's just simple color schemes, and it looks good from a distance. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect. Like, there's definitely going to be some inconsistencies, but I think it just works out well. And here is one of my Malcadors. Again, there's literally just the yellow on the headlight, the base grey, and then silver for weapons and all the extra bits. I think at some point I definitely want to go through and put some more colour in it, like a light blue from infantry, just to blend everything in together a bit more and make a few more things pop. I specifically didn't paint the trim on these because I like the look of the trim. I like the look of not having a trim. It's more grounded in reality for me, so I like it. Then we've got programs again. these were, it's more obvious here, like the heads aren't completely fully painted, for example. There's like the missing gaps, but at the table level you can't tell. Like, yeah, so you don't need to do a huge detailed job. And just some sentinels, similar sort of thing. I kind of don't like how I did the missiles, but again, it works. And here is my 1000 Suns infantry close up. For example, one of the mistakes I noticed after taking this is the commander's hand holding his Volkite pistol is still gold. So this is basically, it's just blood angels red over the retributed gold, and just looks really nice. Works really well for metallics. And some dreadnoughts, which technically I think they're close up, they look worse because there's almost no other, there's just two colors there. I still need to figure out where to put some gold and put some white. I think I was planning to put some white on the las cannons, but I sort of forgot. And here's a rhino, which has a lot more details, and the white doesn't look that good close up, but from a distance it actually looks quite nice. I think there's also one way, so I'm not actually a huge fan of contrast paints, mostly because they're really easy to use, but at the same time you can still get things like pooling. Like if you look on the back hatch of a rhino, there is dark bits, but still I think for this scale of model I think it's actually fine. All the issues I have with it I don't mind with this models this small, and honestly they are pretty simple to paint. Like, yeah, so for painting, the easiest way to paint and look good in my opinion is you basically want contrast paint, one option like this rhino, where essentially you prime it, and use that as your base with the contrast over, and then pick out probably the metal bits at the very least, and maybe add like a secondary color. 3 colors total here, the gold, white, and red. But you would be fine with just the red and the silver bits. But then every extra color you add will make it look a bit nicer. But at the same time, you don't have to. Like you can also add them later as well. That's one way to do it. In this case, it was primed black, painted gold, filled with red over top to give it a metallic look. And the other example is this Iron Warriors Rhino, which is just lead belcher with a dry brush over top. So it's a different route. It's probably, I'd say it's just as easy to paint as using contrast, but it may not work for every color because metallics work great with dry brushes. What I need to, because I'm planning to do my Emperor's Children the same without contrast, and I'm gonna have to see how that looks with more traditional, like just dry brushing and stuff. And here, like, technically hazard stripes could be considered difficult, but of a bigger the area like that back hatch, they're actually not that bad. But again, even then you could easily get away with just doing like silver, and then doing just some trim, just like how I've got the gold trim done on it, and I'll just make it pop enough. Or just painting like a few areas black as well for Iron Warriors. So yeah, there's a sort of 2 painting methods that work pretty well and are pretty simple. And yeah, it doesn't have to be perfect. Yeah, so in my opinion, the best starting point is the starter set. It's really good value. You effectively get the rulebook and the Warhound Titans for free. And you get a decent portion for each side. And if there's a few different ways you could do this, if you could have a friend who wants to collect the other half, one half, and you want to collect the other, you can just get one box, split everything. And if you do that and you both each buy a box of heavy tanks, so Kratos's for the Space Marines and Baneblades for the Auxilia, you'll effectively both have like technically it's just under, but you'll have like a 1,100 point army, which was enough points to actually have the Warhounds. So you have a Warhound, this box, plus the heavy tanks. And I think the Space Marine side ends up being 1072 points, and the auxilia end up being 1090 points. So that's probably a decent actual starting point as well. The other and more insane option is you each buy a starter set and you just swap the auxilia for the space marines. And there's always the option of just buying one and just having both sides, like I did. In fact, I went even more insane and just bought two and sold the excess, the extra rulebook in Titans. And yeah, got a decent amount for them as well. And yeah, once you have that, you pretty much have a really good base for the game. It's like 2 halves of this is essentially a really good core. One of the issues I've had with the game is the stock issues, because most of the kits that are still available are more supporty, and you can't use them by themselves to make an army. But we're starting to get more stock in, like the starter set's back in stock, which is good. We're starting to see more of the actual core models come as individual, separate from this now. So the Sakarans and Malkadors are going up for pre-order this weekend, which are good, which are core tanks rather. And also we're getting the box of all the land speeds and bikes, which can also be used to make a formation as well. So right now it's a lot easier to start the game than it was before. Yeah, and the last thing I sort of wanted to do is give people sort of a general idea of the costs of an army. Because on average, for most kits, with the exception of things like transports like rhinos and drop pods, most kits on average are about 250 points, ignoring Titans, which are actually way better point value. So you're looking at, for like a 1000 point army, you'd be looking at, if you didn't just get half of the box with some heavy tanks, you'd be looking at about $200. So, and honestly, 1000 points is still an actual decent sized game. Like, it's not, because even though they recommend 3000 points, like, you don't actually anywhere need that much. And just like 1000, 1500 is honestly a pretty good game size anyway. So you're looking at like $200, $300 ish, which isn't that bad. But then that's me coming from New Zealand, and our prices are ridiculously higher. So I'm used to paying more. So maybe my perspective on that not being bad probably isn't ideal. But hey. Okay, so for future videos I want to sort of like do some videos on tactics and ideas that I've sort of come up with due to playing the game. I also want to do reviews, like do a video with reviews like formations from each book, as well as like kit reviews, like what I think of kits, like how point efficient the boxes, etc. As well as I want to do progress videos of my armies so I can show you where I'm at. Yeah, I have been delaying putting this video, like making a video like this for a while, mostly because of the stock issues. I'm glad we're finally at a point where other people can get into the game and get excited about things. So yeah, thank you for coming and watching this video, and I will see you all for my next videos whenever I manage to get around to doing those. And who knows when that will be. But yeah, thank you everyone, and goodbye.